Good morning! I know there's a dog. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to San Marino. I'm Bianca Valerio, and welcome to my YouTube channel, and welcome to the smallest independent state or smallest country in the world. We are literally on top of the mountains. It's situated on top of the mountains. It's a beautiful summer day here in August, but because we're on top of the mountains, it's not as hot. Okay, so where do we get started? I'm taking you guys on a private walking tour around San Marino. Okay, so some little fun facts about San Marino. The Vatican was actually established in 1861. So that's like, you do the math, like over 100-something years, right? Unlike San Marino, it's been around since the year 301 AD. It was actually declared the birthday on September 2. So September 2, 2024, it will be 1,700 and something years old. Isn't that crazy? That's how old San Marino is. Now this train, not so old. This was actually created in the 1930s. So in the 1930s, because we are situated on a mountain, they had created 17 tunnels around the mountain so that it can actually go around the mountain and the train, can travel from down to up. However, the war came, a Second World War. They decided during the war that, sorry guys, we're not going to partake in the war. We're not going to include ourselves. No allies, no enemies. We are going to stay neutral. Unfortunately, England had accidentally bombed the upper part of the town. They were meant to bomb this one right here. So amazingly, because these were spared during the war, they had actually housed a lot of refugees. Now, at that time in 1930, the population of San Marino was only 10,000 people. And guess how many refugees they actually housed? 100,000. So the ratio of that is like 1 local to 10 refugees. That's a lot of people. So thankfully, because San Marino is actually quite small, this is where all the refugees had stayed. So every time the refugees would actually hear like sirens or airplanes, they would all hide into these trains. They would have some ration of some bread and water, and even if their circumstances were not the greatest, at least they had a safe place to stay inside these trains. So just to give you like a rough overview, like 2 hours from here by drive, you're in Florence. An hour and a half from here, you're in Bologna, which is where we came from. So this right here is actually their performance theater. So up until today, during performance season, theater season, this is still being used until today, which is not the same as like a cinema. They have that too, but this is like for, theatrical performances. And then right behind me, if you can see, like it's all like city walls. So of course, because San Marino has such an old history of 1,700 plus years, you can be sure that they were already here during the Middle Ages. Middle Ages pretty much means the medieval ages or the 13th century, which is apparently how it all began for San Marino, that became from a community to a republic. So right behind me, the official entrance doors to the old town, and in fact this is the plaque or the plate or the giant steel plaque to show that San Marino has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 2008. So we're actually here right in the center of town. It's actually a really beautiful square, super nice. I'm actually super loving San Marino so much. So this guy over here, can you guess what his name is? It's Marino, guys. Okay, so where did he come from? Basically, he is like the guy that pretty much is the center of this whole story of San Marino. So he actually came from Croatia, and he was a stone cutter, and that is why you will see that he actually has like that it's not a weapon, but that thing to like carve stone, and that is usually his symbol. So he was a stone cutter, and he was actually asked to come to Rimini, which is a city by the coast, because he was tasked to help rebuild the city walls. And he lived there for 12 years, but then, you know, he's an introvert, he's a hermit, so he came to this mountain, Titano. In fact, it says Piazza del Titano, which is where we are. So Titano is the mountain where San Marino is actually situated. So he had been here before. And then after 12 years of working in Rimini, he was like, you know what? I want to go back to Titano, and I just want to live my life as a hermit, as a monk, as just like by myself in peace and quiet. And that is how our story begins. So we are again still continuing to walk up, but as you saw, the walk is actually quite gradual. It's kind of like the train, right? The train wasn't like going up, it was meant to spiral around the mountain, so it wasn't such a steep incline. Same way with the walking that we have actually right here. It's very gradual, so it's actually, you can do a casual walk and it doesn't hurt your knees. All right, so right behind me is a rose, and Jesus is so kind that while everything has wilted, there is like one left for me to film and discover. So this is actually called Rosa de Repubblica de San Marino, basically the San Marino rose, and it's basically a hybrid, so therefore they had created this specific type of rose with the colors of the sunset. So there is the orange, pink, and yellow, basically the flowers of the San Marino rose. All right, so what does that look like to you? So apparently these are wasps. Quite phallic to me. Some may argue they're like eating each other, literally and figuratively. It could be they're just sitting on top of each other, or it could be just be art, which is exactly what you're going to find all over San Marino. Because unlike, you know, like all these richer European countries, they actually had, you know, access to the Medici family had Michelangelo, they had like Leonardo da Vinci and all those other great artists. San Marino didn't have that kind of money, but in the 1960s, when they started to have a bit of money and they wanted to grow like their local culture, they started to invest instead of Renaissance art in modern contemporary art. So you see this right here, you could call it sort of like their sports stadium, if you will. So those are the bleachers, and then opposite of me you can see that. Yes, so it is actually a crossbow competition, because, you know, back in the medieval times they did use crossbows to defend the fort or to defend their land, but now it actually has become a sport. So in September 3, on their National Day, the competition is actually situated here, where all the locals, it's only open to the locals, where they're actually dressed like in literally knight in shining armor, just like how they did it in the Middle Ages. And then that would be the competition. And then apparently in other parts of the year they still do have that competition, but this time it's open to other states in Italy as well. Take a look at this fantastic view. We are at the top. I don't know if it's still the top, but we're pretty high up right now. All right, guys, so all the way we're zooming it, and you see that tiny tower in the distance? Yes, so that tower is actually where Rimini is. And behind it, although because the sun is so high up, that's actually the sea right behind it. And to make it even more beautiful is that you actually see like a cable car. Oh, where is it? And there it is. there's a cable car that you can actually ride to go from down to up. And in San Marino, they actually have 9 provinces. I know, considering it's so small, they consider them provinces, or maybe you would say like 9 communities of or sort, or municipalities, but they call them 9 provinces. And the 9th one is actually where we are right now. I love that. So it's like Braille. You can touch it. And then because you can actually feel like it's townspeople. So this is San Marino.
Palazzo Pubblico.
So you see this right here, it's kind of like the train, where the train was like a symbol of its past, its history, and the values that it earned from UNESCO of liberty, freedom, and hospitality. God, I hope I'm saying that right. But this one right here was actually the old Parliament building, because remember, it was a republic, and because this was actually destroyed in 1884, they decided that the locals may not see, especially the generations of today, may not be able to see what it looked like then. So they made a very miniature scale of it, and also very tactile friendly. So I told you guys, right, 2 things. Number 1 is that during the Second World War, the top of this town was actually bombed. And where that statue is exactly where the bomb fell. It happened at about 11 a.m. and it was totally, the locals were really caught by surprise. But then again, I think any bomb for that reason, anybody will be caught by surprise. And that is where that statue is actually. So in June 26, 1944 was when the bomb had exploded here in San Marino. So walking through the town, you are going to find a bajillion shops. In fact, for a city that is so small, they actually have over 300 shops, which only means that very inclusive. When I said for all, truly for all, where there's something that you can find for everybody, from toys, like there is a shop right there that had guns, from like football memorabilia to historical memorabilia, and they actually sell a lot of eyewear. Well, I guess we're on top of a mountain when it's really quite hot, you need one of these. So you see that building right behind me? Okay, so that is essentially the new Parliament. Well, not new, but earlier you saw the smaller scale version. Because it was destroyed in 1884, that replaced it. Now this building right here is their version of the Statue of Liberty, because it truly is, like, if you see, there's so many signs, even on the flag it says Libertas. So the statue right here is truly the Statue of Liberty. So in the 13th century, when it was just a community of families that were living on a mountain, it had officially become a republic. This country is so amazing that rather than a president, or aka a monopoly of power, they have 2 people who are seated at the head of the government. And then the turnover from one leader to another is 6 months. 6 months, guys. What? Okay, and it's not like families where it's just like a dynasty of one family to another, or like the Medici family or whatever. No, it's actually, they make sure that there's no repetition because they don't want to monopolize that power. Incredible, guys, like damn. So we have gone up there and we're finally making our way here, which I'll show you in just a bit. So we've come to the end of our tour, but my goodness, it is truly just the beginning of like the fascination and the inspiration behind San Marino. Okay, so the question is, I had all this time is, how in the world that such a small country was not invaded by anybody or wasn't bullied by Italy to become a part of them? Like, How is that even possible? It's not like they're surrounded by so much water. You can be easily invaded. I mean, which is why in their flag you have 3 towers, which is why all around us you have these fortification walls. It is to guard with the enemy, especially during the Middle Ages, medieval ages, dark ages. Like, this was a very like gruesome time in life. Think like Game of Thrones, like kind of like that, right? So it is quite short of a miracle as to why San Marino was never invaded. So earlier I was telling you that San Marino, or Marino, the Croat, the guy from Croatia who was a stonecutter, he wanted to live a very peaceful life with his Christian values. And so the first place that he actually situated himself is right there. You see that stone? When he said he wanted to situate himself, he wasn't thinking of like a giant house or a giant mansion. He just wanted to live like a hermit in a rock. And that he did. However, there was a guy who was actually a local here. I think like their family owned like this mountain or the hacienda or whatever. He was so pissed because Marino, you know, he was starting to be loved by the locals. Treviso threatened him and he was like, Marino, you have to go away from here. This is my land. This is my mountain. You are not welcome here. And then something happened that Treviso, I think, fell ill or he got into an accident, something like that. And then Treviso's mom and then told Marino, you know what, if you truly are this holy man that people say that you are, then perform a miracle. And that's exactly what he did. So Marino had prayed over Treviso and voila, he actually came back to life, or he actually got better, he actually got well. And so the mom of Treviso said, well, what do you know? So, you know, because you are such an awesome guy, I am going to give you this mountain in this land. And he was like, what? I don't need this mountain. He's like, no, you deserve this mountain. I'm going to give it to you because you brought my son back to life, or you made him feel better. And so as you can see, this is an incline as we are working our way up from where we had come from. It was built right here. There you go. From that rock, which is that rock right there, right over there, to building this right here. So this was the very first parliament. So this was a mix of the church and a mix of also the parliament. So this is where they would have their city councils back when Marino had actually started this little community. And the best part of how he led this town was like, look, I'm not a leader. I'm not some political person. I'm not here hungry for power. So you know what? The best thing that I can give to you as the founder of this community is liberty. That's why in their flag it says libertas, meaning freedom from political power and freedom from religious power, which is from the church. And that is why San Marino has become the independent republic that I had just discovered today. So still lies the question, why in the world was San Marino just like never invaded? Well, the interesting thing enough is that number one, diplomacy. They always wanted to stay on the neutral side, not wanting to be alliances or enemies with anybody else. And because of that, I guess diplomacy, it's like they never became anyone's enemy or whatnot. The second is poverty. You know, sometimes poverty actually works for you. San Marino is so small. It's not like they had their own agriculture. It's not like they had all these like industries or guilds that they had. So it's kind of like if you were a country and you wanted to colonize a certain country, another country, you'd be like, dude, that's not a country I want to colonize. They don't really have any riches, whether natural or man-made. It's not worth the effort. So in a way, them being poor actually helped them a lot. And now, why don't we look inside the church? This is the only church in the world where you are going to find the saint. Not Jesus, not Mother Mary, not anybody else, but the saint as the center and the altar. This is San Marino. But if you take a look, Christ is right above San Marino, because all he ever wanted was to teach and propagate Christian values to the people, which is exactly what he did, and he led by example, as San Marino symbolizes all the values, the Christian values that he taught.